Mrs. Peters, the crazy cat lady of Hiram High School. Today's topic, intervals of increase and decrease. That means areas of the X number line where your values of Y get bigger or your values of Y get smaller. We're just looking at the area or the part of the number line on the X number line that tells us when this is happening. So let's look at a couple examples. Blow this up a little bit so we can see really nice and close. Okay, here's one of those generic little graphs I've made, and we're talking about the intervals of increase and decrease. Now, when that happens, I'm going to take a little pin out. I'll take a little highlighter. I'll make it a tiny little highlighter, and I am going to note where the quote bumps of my graph happen. All right. So what I'm looking for, okay, is where am I going uphill? So we're going to write, okay, I'm coming over here. I'm going uphill. I go downhill. I go uphill. And then I go downhill. So looking at strictly our increase, okay, we are increasing as we are coming from infinity, and we are going to stop increasing at this bump. So that would be negative infinity, and then we go all the way to this bump, which happens to be -2. Open dots. Okay, that's an interval of increase. Negative infinity, oh, not -8, negative infinity, -2. Interval notation. Now, my next interval of increase happens right here, where you see this upward arrow right here. This one, okay, it's going uphill. Okay, so I'm going from about, looks to be about a half, okay, positive 1/2 to about 2. Okay, so that is 1/2 to 2. Those are my intervals of decrease. Now, increase. The intervals of decrease start at -2 and go on until I start to increase again, which would be at 1/2. So my decrease is -2 and positive 1/2. Okay, open dots. And then my next interval of decrease happens over here, where all of a sudden I'm going downhill forever and ever and ever and ever. And that starts at 2 and goes on for positive infinity. So when you see intervals of increase and decrease, we might want to mark up our pictures a little bit. So let's look at another one. All right. So with this one, we'll get a little bit smaller lines. All right. I have a, here's an area. There's an area. Oh, that one was really badly drawn, wasn't it? Let's undo that one. Let's see, I have one here. I have one here. I have one here. Okay, again, we're going to pay attention to where I'm going uphill and downhill. Okay, uphill here, downhill there, uphill here, downhill there, uphill there. Notice my downhill arrows are big and fat. That's because that's the way I made the marker, but it does help us see things. Okay, so my increase is where I'm going uphill. I go from negative infinity to my first yellow line, which is my bump, looks to be -2.5. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my, starting at my next bump, which is about -1.75. Okay, to my next ending of the uphill, which is about 0.5. And then at 1.5, I go on to positive infinity. There's my intervals of increase. Now my intervals of decrease happen where I have my down arrows. All right, so I have an interval of decrease at -2.5 to -1.75. So that's a very narrow spot. If you look at the graph, it is. And then my other area of interval of decrease is from 0.5 to 1.5. there's my intervals of increase and decrease for 2. Now, intervals, I'm going to let you guys do this one on your own. And on a table of values, if we were looking at intervals of increase and decrease, we would need to pay attention to where things are changing. Okay? Maybe my x values don't change, like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1. But what's going on with my y values is maybe I have -1, -2, -3, -2, -1, 0, -1, -2. And what I'm looking for in my table of values is going to be where my y values change direction. And they change direction right here, because up until then I was going down. Now all of a sudden I'm going up. I'm increasing in my values. And then I do it again here. I change direction. I go from going up to going back down. So I have 2 change of values here. And my interval of increase would be -3 to, I'm thinking -1. Somewhere in between there. I'm going to do it this way. The interval of that happens in between here and in between here. And because I made these up out of my head. I don't have a table of values where I can detail down in between it. So my increase is going to happen at -2.5 to 0.5. That's this increase area here. And then my intervals of decrease start at -infinity. I'm going to assume this keeps on going down from there, from forever, to -2.5. And then it starts again at -0.5 to +infinity. And that's that. Y'all take care. Have any questions, write them down, put them on a piece of paper, come to tutoring, tell me all about them, and I'll talk to you later. Y'all have a good evening. Bye. Did that make sense to you? Because, oh, you're right, that should be a negative. Oh crap, now I gotta get the whole video. Okay, well, I just did the whole video over again. Or I can do this. Oh, it's still recording. And real quickly, somebody pointed out to me, why do I have a positive right here? It shouldn't be a positive. It should be a -infinity. So I'm going to take out my handy duty, ever popular little eraser, and I'm going to make that a -infinity because it keeps going down forever. It's not going up. And thank you, student in the audience, who got to tell me that I made a mistake. I appreciate that because nobody is perfect.